Welcome into Steelers Talk. I am your host, Jack Sperry. And first up on the show today, we're going to be talking about whether or not the Pittsburgh Steelers could bring in a late season wide receiver addition like Josh Reynolds, or maybe even does Diontae Johnson here for the home stretch of the 2024 NFL season. Then we'll be talking about the latest head coaching buzz surrounding current Steelers offensive coordinator Arthur Smith. Last week, we talked about him potentially going to college football with his alma mater in the North Carolina Tar Heels. Now he's being linked to the Chicago Bears head coaching job. So we'll let you guys know the latest buzz around Art at the end of today's show. So make sure you guys stick around for that. But make sure you guys also click that subscribe button. If you've been watching our shows for a while and you guys want that free informative content every single day, it would really be great if you guys click that subscribe button for me right now. You guys might have noticed here that we haven't been in our normal studio here these last couple of days. It's because we've had some construction going on here at Chat Sports. So I want to thank you guys for your patience and your support here at Steelers Talk. All right, so let's get into our first topic of the day, which is whether or not the Pittsburgh Steelers could make kind of a last-minute wide receiver signing here before the start of the NFL playoffs this year and down the home stretch of this 2024 campaign. And the two names in particular that are being brought up are Josh Reynolds and Diontae Johnson. Let's start with Josh Reynolds here because he was released by the Denver Broncos yesterday. He has not played since week 5. He had a broken finger, and then he ended up getting shot in a drive-by shooting where he got nicked in both the arm and also in the back of the head. So he has not played since week 5. The Broncos opened his window to potentially come back from IR, but instead they decided to let him go and really focus in on their young crew of wide receivers there in Denver down the home stretch. You take a look at Josh Reynolds here. He's 29 years old, so he's not exactly a young buck anymore, but he provides really great size at 6'3", 192 pounds. He's a bigger possession type guy, and he's also a crafty route runner. Like he's not just like a Mike Williams, just true deep threat. Like I think that he can run digs, he can run certain intermediate routes, and I think he provides a little bit more crafty route running than a guy like Mike Williams might be able to provide. But like I said, guys, he has not played since week 5 because he dealt with that broken finger. Then he did get nicked up a little bit there in that drive-by shooting. Thank God Josh Reynolds got out of that okay earlier this year. Take a look at his numbers this year with Denver. They were pretty good before he ended up getting injured. He had 12 catches on 19 targets for a long of 49 yards, had a touchdown, and yards per reception was over 15 yards. So over a first down per reception, really efficient for Josh Reynolds. And just last year with the Detroit Lions, he was like their number 4 receiver, and he still put up these kinds of numbers, 40 receptions on over 600 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns. And you guys can see there, the yards per reception number is around where it was this year with Denver as well. So I actually really like Josh Reynolds as a player, and I like the skill set that he brings to the table. You guys can see his relative athletic score from when he was coming out of Texas A&M. You guys can see he's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's definitely not the slowest either. And he's got really good athleticism. He's got a great vertical jump, really athletic, and he uses that to his advantage in deep ball situations as well as going up and making tough catches at the catch point. And you know what, man? I think that if Reynolds is healthy and he's good to play and he's good to go, he's somebody that I would bring in, especially if it was for just like a 1-year contract, vet minimum. He wants a chance to go and try and win a Super Bowl this year. He'd play an immediate role here with the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion, especially with Calvin Austin III dealing with a concussion right now. Mike Williams only has 1 catch in 4 weeks in a Steelers uniform. Getting a guy like Josh Reynolds, who does block well, to play in that Detroit Lions offense, you have to be a good run blocker as a wide receiver. He did that last year for the Lions, and he did that this year as well with Denver. He's a crafty route runner, which is more than what we can say about Van Jefferson at this point. And, you know, I think it's more likely that Pittsburgh just sticks with Mike Williams. They traded a 5th-round pick for him. So to get a guy like Josh Reynolds to come in and play more than Mike Williams just doesn't really seem like something I think Omar Khan and the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to do. And Mike Tomlin, at his press conference earlier this week, said that it's quote-unquote only a matter of time before Mike Williams gets more involved in the passing game. So it's clear that the Steelers still have a plan for Mike Williams, and it's only a matter of time here before Mike gets it going in the Steelers offense, or at least we hope. I was certainly hoping that he was going to be more a part of the plan versus the Cincinnati Bengals off the mini bye week, and he ended up getting 0 targets on the day. So let me know down there in the comment section for today's pinned comment, who's the better receiver? Mike Williams, Josh Reynolds. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Type MW if you'd rather have Mike Williams, or type JR if you think Josh Reynolds is the superior pass catcher. Like I said, guys, this is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So in just a second here, I'm going to be telling you about our friends at Turtle Beach. And while I talk about Turtle Beach, find that pinned comment at the top of the comment section and answer today's pinned question. Today's Steelers Talk episode is brought to you by Turtle Beach, the #1 brand in gaming headsets and accessories. You won't be hearing Santa coming down the chimney this Christmas Eve if you get Turtle Beach's new Stealth 700 gaming headset. Turtle Beach's Stealth 700 Gen 3 headset picks up so much crystal clear sound, it's basically cheating. Santa could crash land right in your living room and you wouldn't even notice. There's also no better way to block out Aunt Carol asking about your love life than with Turtle Beach's game-changing superhuman hearing technology. You'll hear every explosion, every loot box, and every footstep like they're right in the room with you. Plus, their headsets are so comfortable, it's like a cozy Christmas sweater for your ears. You'll forget you're even wearing them, and with 80 hours of battery life, you can game throughout Christmas with just one charge. Whether you're treating yourself or looking for the perfect gift, now's the time to snag the headset that everybody is talking about. For a limited time only, our listeners get 10% off their entire order when you use code CHAT at turtlebeach.com. That's 10% off your entire order at turtlebeach.com with promo code CHAT. Get the ultimate immersive gaming experience with Turtle Beach today. For a limited time only, head on over to turtlebeach.com and use code CHAT for 10% off your entire order. That's 10% off your order at turtlebeach.com with promo code CHAT. Don't delay. Get the perfect gift now. Happy holidays from Turtle Beach. Shifting over to another wide receiver that could potentially be on his way back to Pittsburgh. At least that's what some Steelers fans are hoping. John Harbaugh, the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, was definitely not too confident in his standing with Diontae Johnson, the receiver they just added a couple of weeks before. They traded for him from the Carolina Panthers before the NFL trade deadline, and it kind of sounds like Diontae might be out there in Baltimore after a shaky start there with the Ratbirds. This is what Harbaugh had to say earlier this week. At this time, I'm going to have to wait just to clarify it. There's some moving parts there that we're going to have to figure out and explore and just see where we're at. I know that's not the answer you want, but that's the best I can do in fairness to everybody right now. And this is definitely in reference here to Diontae Johnson since entering that Baltimore Ravens locker room, only getting 5 targets, only 1 catch on those 5 targets, just 1 6-yard reception, of course, 0 touchdowns. He didn't even have a single catch in the game last week against the Philadelphia Eagles, and he really didn't play at all in that football game. So Diontae has kind of expressed his frustration with the lack of playing time there in Baltimore since he's arrived. I thought he actually had a pretty decent season there in Carolina before he got traded, but it's just his season has completely been derailed since being traded to Baltimore. So some people think he's going to get released, and some Steelers fans are suggesting that the Steelers should consider bringing him back here to Pittsburgh because he was this team's most productive receiver last year despite missing time. He is still the #1 receiver. He's still a very good route runner. He could still provide this team a much-needed receiving threat and route runner on third downs and stuff like that. But personally, guys, I think that the Steelers aren't going to bring him back. There was a reason, and there was reasonings outside of just the football, why the Steelers decided to trade Diontae Johnson. Last year, they thought he was being a very bad influence on George Pickens. Now, George is kind of more of the diva receiver here in Pittsburgh, not Diontae Johnson. But I certainly feel like if they felt like Diontae was a bad influence on George then, they're not going to bring him in now towards the end of the season to kind of be a locker room cancer. I just don't see that happening. On paper, you could certainly say it makes sense. I think he's a really good route runner with Calvin Austin III with the concussion protocol now. You know, you can get a guy like Diontae Johnson. He could be a benefit to your football team, but it's more than just Madden, right? This isn't Madden where you're just adding a player to your roster. You're adding a person to your locker room. And it just sounds like the Steelers have no interest in having Diontae Johnson, the person, in their locker room down the home stretch. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Would you bring back Diontae Johnson if he is released by the Ravens? Simply give me a yes or a no down there in the comments section to let me know what you guys would do about Diontae Johnson. Moving on from wide receiver rumors here to the head coaching rumors surrounding offensive coordinator Arthur Smith. According to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, Pittsburgh's OC here, Art is generating some head coaching buzz around the National Football League. This is what he had to say earlier today. The Steelers offensive coordinator Arthur Smith conveyed his happiness in Pittsburgh despite having talks with UNC, his alma mater, about its recently opened job, suggests his chances to become an NFL head coach might be pretty good. And then also in conjunction with this, Jay Glazer from Fox Sports, who, by the way, is very tied in to Mike Tomlin and the Steelers locker room, tabs Arthur Smith as a potential top head coaching candidate for the Chicago Bears head coaching position that is going to be opening up this offseason. This is what Jay had to say about Art to Chicago. I think the number one thing for them is the Bears are going to need an offensive coach, I think, that can really sit there and teach and mold Caleb Williams over the years, that can develop. So you look at some of the guys out there like Arthur Smith, what he's doing in Pittsburgh right now. So listen, man, I certainly feel like with all these rumors about UNC and Chicago, and there's going to be more jobs opening up here as the NFL coaching carousel begins to open up towards the end of the season, I think it is a legit possibility that Arthur Smith could get potential head coach interviews, and he might even get hired to be a head coach of another football team. You get a second chance of being a head coach in the National Football League. And if that happens, man, there's definitely some good candidates for the Pittsburgh Steelers at the OC position. Last week, I gave my list, and today, I kind of mulled it over, and I have some updates to my list here. So here we go. We'll start with number 10 here with Byron Leftwich, the former Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator. He is a Super Bowl winning play caller, okay, and he used to pair with Tom Brady and Bruce Arians there in Tampa Bay. And, Bruce Arians, who was the last OC here in Pittsburgh to win a Super Bowl with Mike Tomlin, swears by Byron Leftwich and his football knowledge. If you want to bring back kind of that run and shoot offense that Bruce Arians had here in Pittsburgh, Byron Leftwich would be the guy that could implement that. Then we get to Eric Bieniemy here, the current UCLA offensive coordinator, former OC for the Washington Commanders last year, and then the Kansas City Chiefs. Before that, he's a multiple-time Super Bowl winning offensive play caller, but of course he was with Andy Reid there with the Kansas City Chiefs, and of course he had the benefit of having Patrick Mahomes. But his coaching style is very tough. It's very Tomlin-esque, and they're good friends. So he's certainly somebody that Tomlin will consider if Arthur Smith decides to leave. Number 8, I'll go with the Minnesota Vikings quarterbacks coach Josh McCown. He's playing in every single system, every single offense you can think of. Right now, he's coaching quarterbacks under Kevin O'Connell in the Sean McVay style West Coast offense that Minnesota is currently running. He's coaching Sam Darnold, and he has really fostered a career renaissance for Sam this year in Minnesota. Potentially could bring him in and run that McVay style West Coast with Russell Wilson here in Pittsburgh. Another guy to consider, Zach Taylor. If he gets fired by the Cincinnati Bengals, which, if they keep losing football games, that becomes more and more likely. Zach Taylor is somebody with a wide breadth of knowledge of this division and these opponents. He game plans for every single one of these teams twice a year, and he has obviously a great breadth of knowledge of that Cincinnati Bengals team as well. So if you could get him, he is somebody that comes from that Sean McVay tree. He is somebody that has been willing to adapt to the strengths of his quarterback in Joe Burrow. And I think that he would be a really good fit here in Pittsburgh if he were hired to be the next OC. Another guy to consider is Thomas Brown, the current interim head coach there in Chicago. He talks a lot like Mike Tomlin. So I feel like he'd be a Tomlin guy, brings in that Sean McVay style of offense of the West Coast once again. I think he'd be an excellent fit here in Pittsburgh. Number 5, Scott Turner kind of runs a run and shoot style of offense with the same kind of offense that his dad Norv Turner ran for all these years in the National Football League. Won multiple Super Bowls there with the Dallas Cowboys way back in the day, and that's exactly the type of offense that Russell Wilson likes to run, where he likes to throw the ball down the field, play action, deep shots. That's what Scott Turner likes to do. And obviously the Raiders could be looking for a new OC next year, or maybe even a new head coach, so Turner could become available as well. Number 4, I got Josh McDaniels, multiple-time a Super Bowl winning play caller. Once again, he was in charge of the offenses there in New England. When Belichick was there and Tom Brady was doing his thing. McDaniels, his offense, I think, could really fit with Russell Wilson, because Russ is really good at determining what the defense is doing pre-snap. You have to do that in the McDaniels kind of multiple style of offense, making checks at the line, making audibles, getting the team into the right play. I think Russ would be a really, really good fit in Josh McDaniels' offense. Number 3, I'll go Clint Kubiak. He was one of the top OC candidates last year. He ended up going to the Saints. Really fast start. Then they got a bunch of injuries, and now Dennis Allen is fired, and Kubiak's going to be a free agent most likely next year. That is if they don't keep him as the head coach. But hey, if they were considering him as head coach, I think they would have made him the interim. So Kubiak will be available next year. Runs a Shanahan-style West Coast offense. Think he'd be a good fit here in Pittsburgh as well. Brian Dable looks like he's probably going to get fired there in New York. And, he throws the ball. He likes to throw the ball down the field. And, Russell Wilson is certainly somebody that can do that. And I definitely think Dable has kind of the Pittsburgh mentality. And I really think you could trust him to run this offense. As we know, Mike Tomlin is more of the defensive-minded head coach. Then number 1, Darrell Bevell, former Super Bowl winning offensive play caller with Russell Wilson as his quarterback, and he learned kind of that Shanahan style of the West Coast offense there in Miami over the last several seasons. He has helped develop Tua Tagovailoa, who has a limited skill set, into an extremely productive quarterback. If he could reunite with Russell Wilson here in Pittsburgh, I think that'd be a match made in heaven. So let me know down there in the comments section, guys. Will Art be in Pittsburgh next year, or is he going to move on to be a head coach somewhere else? Let me know down there in the comments section. And then also, if he does move on, let me know who you want as the next offensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you guys missed it yesterday, it was the debut of AFC North Hard Knocks on HBO. And let me tell you, man, I could not recommend this show enough. Coach T was absolutely the star of the show. We got a little bit of an in-depth look at the preparation that the Steelers had, and you guys can just see in the meetings why this guy has had the kind of level of success and the consistent culture that he has had, challenging guys in the meeting room, inspiring guys, motivational speaking is absolutely off the charts with this cat, and you guys can just see that when he enters a room, everybody is locked in. He's challenging guys. He challenged Nick Herbig to get that big strip sack. He ended up doing that on Orlando Brown Jr., one of the best left tackles in football. And if you love the Pittsburgh Steelers, if you love just NFL football and you love to see behind-the-scenes stuff, I could not recommend this show enough. It was an excellent first episode, and I can't wait to see more. All right, that'll be it for today's show, guys. Really do appreciate all of your guys' support and making it to the end of today's program. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.